Well, Democrats and the media are pounding President Donald Trump for daring to question the integrity of the election. Please, do you realize how many bonehead conspiracy theories are believed by the left? This video talks about 4 of them. Conspiracy theory number 1, the CIA played a major role in the drug trade in the inner city. Hollywood even made a movie about a reporter named Gary Webb who made this allegation.
Gary Webb, San Jose Mercury News.
You believe in conspiracy theories, Gary?
No, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. Conspiracies, yes. If I believe it, there's nothing theory about it.
Now, the reporter who made the allegation is named Gary Webb, but his paper, the San Jose Mercury News, attracted basically virtually every major allegation made by Mr. Webb, who later on, at the age of 49, killed himself. Now, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the LA Times, newspapers that despised Ronald Reagan, and all of which would have loved to have done an expose connecting Reagan and the CIA and the Contras to the drug trade in the inner city. It's just that the facts didn't support it. But it didn't matter.
They only printed a few words about CIA connection to the Contras, Contras connections to the cocaine, but spent 5,000 words combined in the LA Times, the New York Times, and the Washington Post debunking Gary Webb's story.
And Reverend Jesse Jackson said, now the CIA put out a report refuting the allegations and even sent the CIA director John Deutch to Los Angeles for an unprecedented, pretty incredible town hall meeting where for hours, speaker after speaker after speaker leveled charges and accused him of being a racist. This is from the CIA report. In August 1996, San Jose Mercury News published a series of articles which alleged that certain individuals associated with the Nicaraguan Contras had flooded South Central LA with cocaine in the 1980s. The stories imply that the Central Intelligence Agency was aware of these activities and either attempted to protect the drug dealing of these Contra supporters or turned a blind eye to their activities. Blandon and Meneses engaged in large-scale drug trafficking in the 1980s and provided some modest monetary support for the Contras. But the monetary amounts appear to be relatively insignificant compared to the money they made in drug trafficking, end of quote. And as mentioned, then CIA Director John Deutch came to LA for a town hall and dealt with the accusations.
It is an appalling charge. It is an appalling charge that goes to the heart of this country. We must deal if we are going to stop drugs from coming into the country.
Now, Maxine Waters, who wrote a foreword for the book put out by Gary Webb called Dark Alliance, wasn't having it.
I also question the report's methodology, its sweeping conclusions, its cleverly worded denials, and its selective quoting of documents. The report states that 365 interviews were conducted, but only summarizes statements from 12 individuals connected to the South Central Los Angeles specific allegations. I have a list of over 70 individuals who should have been interviewed under oath by the CIA if the investigation was to be considered credible.
The Washington Post. Webb's story made the extraordinary claim that the CIA was responsible for the crack cocaine epidemic in America. What he lacked was the extraordinary proof. At first, the claim was enough. Webb's story became notable as the first major journalism cause celeb on the newly emerging internet. The black community roiled in anger at the supposed CIA perfidy, a fancy word for dishonesty. Then it all began to come apart. The New York Times, the Washington Post, and the LA Times, in a rare show of unanimity, all wrote major pieces knocking the story down for its overblown claims and undernourished reporting. Was the agency allowing cocaine to flow into the United States as a means to fund its secret war supporting the Contras in Nicaragua? Many journalists, including me, chased that story from different angles, but the extraordinary proof was always lacking. Finally, in April 1989, The U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Terrorism, Narcotics, and International Operations, chaired by Senator John Kerry, weighed in. After an exhaustive 3-year investigation, the committee's report concluded that the CIA officials were aware of the smuggling activities of some of their charges who supported the Contras, but it stopped short of implicating the agency directly in drug dealing, end of quote. Los Angeles Times. Webb's premise was that the government knew about and even encouraged the drug sales, with South Los Angeles as ground zero. Later, Webb's bosses at the Mercury News all but disavowed the piece, with a front-page editor's note stating that the series had largely overstated its provocative findings. Eventually, Webb was forced to resign, end of quote. New York Times. The force of the Mercury News account appears to have relatively little to do with the quality of the evidence that it marshals to its case. The series did raise some new questions about the government's treatment of a pair of mid-level Nicaraguan drug traffickers, but court documents, past investigations, and interviews with more than 24 current and former rebels, CIA officials, and narcotics agents, as well as other law enforcement officials and experts on the drug trade, all indicate there is scant proof to support the paper's contention that Nicaraguan rebel officials linked to the CIA played a major role in spreading crack through Los Angeles and other cities, end of quote. Elder, you regularly attack the LA Times, the Washington Post, and the New York Times. Now you're looking at them as a source of credibility for refuting this allegation. Look, again, these papers despise Reagan. They would have loved to have pushed that story if only it were true. Conspiracy theory number 2. Scientists in a lab invented HIV/AIDS in order to get certain people.
Americans, listen up now. What's that say?
It says,
Where do you see the pencil mark?
okay, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna show it to them too.
Yeah, no. What's it say?
It says,
Michael Gallo.
they got, well, you talking about the pencil markers, I see Graves' name right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, remember now, you showing it to the folks that can read it, right?
Right.
Okay, now, what's it say?
Graves claims it is becoming increasingly clear that this virus was not, as scientists at first thought, passed from chimpanzees to mankind, but was probably knowingly developed by doctors and scientists working for the United States government.
I read that you felt that the government was deliberately spraying cold germs in subways, was deliberately trying to make people ill with the AIDS virus. This is pretty serious stuff. Do you really feel that?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I'm with Barbara Walters now. Oh, that's a serious one. Okay, so I got to, now, because people are going to chase me after this. People are going to chase me. I believe that it is quite highly possible that the AIDS virus is a result of genetic warfare testing.
By American agents?
Absolutely.
Well, why?
Am I a conspiracy theorist? I'm a conspiracy theorist, aren't I?
And these two weren't the only ones. Jacob Heller is a sociologist at the State University of New York. In addition to Will Smith and Dick Gregory, Heller also found other notable blacks supported this theory. Spike Lee, Louis Farrakhan, Bill Cosby, among others. Conspiracy theory number 3, 78% of Democrats, 78%, believe that not just that the Russians interfered in the election, which they clearly did, but that but for that interference, Hillary Clinton would have become president. Gallup poll, 78% believe that the Russians changed the outcome of the election in 2016. Never mind the sworn testimony of Jay Johnson, who served as Barack Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security.
I know of no evidence that through cyber intrusions, votes were altered or suppressed in some way.
Conspiracy theory number 4, The government blew up levees during Hurricane Katrina under the government of George W. Bush.
This past Saturday, Louis Farrakhan did a kind of a reunion of the Million Man March. I don't think we got 1 million people this time. But he was saying last Saturday in Washington that he thinks that the federal government, there was a conspiracy to actually blow up those levees so that they would flood the poor black districts in New Orleans. I have to tell you, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe it. But when you see some of the things that have gone on in this country...
Exactly. It's not far-fetched. And also, I like to say, it's not necessarily blow it up, but the residents of that ward, they believe that there was a Hurricane Betsy in '65. They felt the same thing happen, where a choice had to be made. One neighborhood, we got to save one neighborhood and flood another neighborhood. Look, if we're in L.A.
No, that's been done before.
If we're in L.A. and there's an emergency situation, we call from Beverly Hills, we call from Compton. Which one are the cops coming to first?
Facts don't matter, lack of evidence doesn't matter, as Tucker Carlson tried to explain to Mr. Lee.
I was in New Orleans right after the hurricane in the 9th Ward. And while I didn't hear anybody say the levee was blown up by the federal government, I did interview a bunch of people who were stuck there who said they believed this was part of a conspiracy to rid New Orleans of black people. They honestly believed that. I didn't argue with them. Right. I just listened to what they said, and I felt bad for them. So as you sit here, who is someone who is rich and has options, and are watched by people who are poor and have no options, it seems to me it's your responsibility, your obligation to tell them the truth. And you know the truth, which is the federal government did not blow up those levees. So don't feed the paranoia and the craziness.
How is that feeding the paranoia?
Because you're saying it's entirely possible when you know perfectly well it's not entirely possible.
How is it not possible?
The federal government blew up the levees. A, there's zero evidence. B, it's difficult to blow up a levee. C, there were news cameras all around and nobody saw it. I mean, let's be real here.
Because nobody saw it? Because nobody saw it means it couldn't have happened?
It's okay, I could say...
Let me ask a question. Okay. With the history of this country, you ever heard of the Tuskegee experiment?
Look, I'm not going to sit here for your history lesson. I want to know what... Of course I've heard of the Tuskegee experiment.
Let's explain to the audience what the Tuskegee experiment was.
I'm not even going to get into the history lesson.
So please, spare me the tears over how Donald Trump is undermining the integrity of our country by pursuing crackpot conspiracy theories. Consider the theories believed by the left that the levees were blown up intentionally in order to get rid of black people from New Orleans, that AIDS, HIV was conceived by government scientists in a lab in order to get certain people, i.e. black people, that the CIA all but started the drug trade in the inner city, and that the Russians literally changed the outcome of the election even though our intel community has not reached any such conclusion. So please, chill, okay? I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.